they can use that later on. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jason Fullerton, the Executive Manager at Barringtons. And this morning's webinar, I'm going to take you through the Smartek Compliance Management and Reporting System and show how that can facilitate both compliance management and also day-to-day reporting that occurs within your clubs. A bit of the background to the system. Originally, it was designed as a contractor management system and facilitated the contractor management for the 2000 Olympics construction program. We have provided this software to Multiplex for a number of years now, and it has assisted them in managing both the 2000 Olympics construction program, Sydney World Square Tower, the construction of that, and one really interesting project we did manage was the New South Wales Schools Building the Education Revolution program, which was funded by the federal government as part of the economic stimulus plan. And that was a unique type of project because, as you could imagine, the number of compliances in dealing with, one, the government and then also education facilities required contractors to fulfill a number of criteria, a number of requirements before they could be admitted to a site, particularly because schools were still operating during those times. So, you know, some of the essential compliances of which our system managed at that time included things like working with children checks, making sure people were, you know, appropriately licensed, no criminal histories, those types of things. So it was a real delicate type construction program of which we facilitated, and any contractor that was admitted to sites as a result of that was required to provide their credentials prior to being admitted to site, and they would either be accepted to the site or not accepted to the site. In 2012, we did a major upgrade to the system, and what we wanted to do was to give it some synergy with the club industry. And of course, obviously, compliance management is a significant part of what takes place in clubs, no matter what state you're in. Obviously, we're all governed by separate pieces of gaming legislation, liquor legislation, registered clubs legislation. Then we have got the dynamic of the beginning of 2012 with the introduction of the Work Health and Safety Act and your obligations under that legislation. We also have a number of articles out there at the moment, you know, sort of anti-alcohol propaganda, anti-gaming propaganda, which requires us to even represent ourselves beyond what just a traditional compliance is under a piece of legislation, but to make sure that we're doing the right thing to be able to portray an appropriate image to the community. So the facilities of this system, since we did this upgrade, now allows for us to facilitate club company compliances, which include a number of those things I've already spoken about, club employee compliances, and I'll show you, I've created a mock employee, being myself, in the system, and the compliances that I've attached to myself. The management of employees and the performance management of employees, because quite often with performance reviews coming around 3 months down the track, is that we traditionally try and recall what's happened over the past 3 months, and we don't have any available intelligence to tell us how employees are going on a shift-by-shift basis, opposed to it being a quarter-by-quarter basis if you're doing quarterly reviews, or a half-yearly by half-yearly if it was half-yearly or yearly. It also has the capacity now to facilitate shift reporting. I've written a unique shift report for the club industry. We have taken on board and we've consulted with our existing clients on Smartek to be able to build a shift report which we think is particularly relevant to the club industry now. And what shift reporting allows for, it allows for you guys to obtain some intelligence about what happens in your clubs on a shift-by-shift basis. Things about, you know, what's going on in the bar, what's going on in gaming, what's going on in functions, staff being trained, staff performance, all those particularly relevant things that you may or may not be capturing at the moment. Then we have incident reporting, a real key criteria when it comes to compliance management is the recording of incidents. And not only that, we also have put facilities within the reporting system to ensure that there is follow-up. And if there isn't follow-up, then there are consequences for people not following up. And then we've got, obviously, the contractor management, which is probably the most mature part of the program, which basically handles all contractors. It ensures that they must fulfill a certain level of compliance prior to being admitted to one of your clubs. Of course, the Work Health and Safety Act governs a lot of that, and increasingly so now, given that work health safety legislation now is not it's not determined on an employee-employer relationship, but people fulfilling role in a contract capacity, you also have duty of care obligations to. But at a minimum, a contractor management, an appropriate contractor management system would facilitate the capturing of public liability insurance, workers' compensation insurance, the relevant license for the work in which they're doing, site inductions, those types of things the system can facilitate. So we'll go and have a look at the system now. I'm just going to close my PowerPoint presentation there for a moment and go into the system. So this is basically the login screen for the system. Everyone who logs into the system, everyone who is required to prepare reports and that will have their own separate logins, because what it does is it allows us to record whoever's made additions to reports, whoever's created reports. So it enables us to automatically populate the author. So there's no opportunity for someone to go in and doctor a report, change a report, whatever it may be, through this system. So if we log into the system, obviously created a mock club site being Barrington Workers. For those of you who know us, you may say that perhaps that's probably not an appropriate name, Workers, but albeit I may be at home conducting this webinar today, I am working. If I go in there and that, I can go in there and then open up our main site. And within this system here allows where all the reporting can take place as far as what goes on throughout our club. So if we go into, I'll just go back for one moment and look at company compliances, I think was the first one in that slide. Yeah, so if I look at club company compliances, I will go in. I've created at this stage, so this is the area where I can create a number of different companies. Obviously your club site will be a company, but I can create this is where I would create all my other contract companies as well. So I'll go in there and I view that. Now at the moment, just for the purpose of today's exercise, I've just restricted the compliances to the company public liability insurance and the company workers' compensation insurance. So within these compliances, I can add further compliances. And what I've done is, from my background within the industry and understanding the industry, is that I've tried to create compliances that are relevant to the club industry that are already created. But you may have your own unique compliances, and through the maintenance provision of this system, I can go in and create other compliances. For instance, if you wanted to have a company compliance that we did a inspection of the kitchen monthly, a senior management inspection of the kitchen. Now within that, I can upload a checklist into the system and you can go through that checklist. Now with anything with these compliances, with these company compliances, when they're about to end or they're about to expire, and you will see just here within the system, we've got these two insurances here expiring on the 30th of June 2014. we can set up an alert system. And the alert system that we operate is a green, orange, red alert. And that is determined in consultation with the client about what type of period that we want green alerts to go out to, who's to get the green alerts, because they are email notifications. So you may say, if it was a kitchen inspection, it may be your catering manager or a delegated to a duty manager, whatever that may be, and they would get the green alert, for instance, 2 weeks out. And if it come down to 1 week out and there'd been no inspection done, then it may then go to the operations manager, and then of course the red alert, when it hasn't been done, would then go to senior management or even the CEO in some respects. So with these here, if I go and do add there, I've created a number of registered club compliances, and I'm not going to go through them all, but I've tried to exhaust from my own knowledge what compliances are required for registered clubs. But as I explained, we can add to this is the flexibility within the program on a regular basis. If you were to contact us and say, Jace, we need this kitchen inspection one in, or we need a cellar decontamination, hygiene, wash, whatever it may be, we can add these to the system, and it's quite easy to add a compliance. If I go back to the compliances that I have created in the system, each one of these allows us to have a start date and end date. You'll see here that we have the capacity. So say, for instance, you are a multi-site club, and we manage at the moment 2 multi-site clubs, that being Blacktown Workers is an existing club. They obviously have their Parramatta club, and they also have their sports club, and we also facilitate tradies as well, which has a Guy Meir site and Caringbah site. So we can attach certain compliances to different sites. So it allows us to be site specific there. Then you've got your start and your end date. Now over here it's got view. Now when I'm creating that compliance, and when we're attaching that compliance to your site, you then have the capacity to upload your certificate of currency, and albeit it's on its side there at the moment, you can see there that I have a certificate of currency. So all of a sudden we're taking things out of filing cabinets, and we're recording, we have them electronically within our system. So what it's doing is it's building a platform of where you bring all your compliance into one conduit, so you know where to go. So that's just a brief example of company compliances, and it's the same for the workers' compensation insurance. You can see there that I have view. But if I wanted to attach some of the other compliances in there, for instance, your annual fire safety statement, for those of you in New South Wales, regulated by the Local Government Act in New South Wales, certificate of registration, even your insurances, knowing when your insurance is, we can upload copies to all of these compliances, and we can have commencement dates and completion dates. Things like air conditioning contamination testing, but even in New South Wales now, we've obviously got mandatory director training, mandatory manager training, those types of things. Work health safety, what's sort of regulating that now, consultation statements, policies, return to work, all those types of things, and that we're bringing all into the one conduit. As far as that goes. Creating a company is quite easy. I would just go over here to this add button, and then I could go on and create a new company. If that was a contract company, we'd get all these mandatory details down here. We would save that, and then we would start to attach compliances to them. So initially, you may just attach a public liability insurance and a workers' compensation insurance. The beauty about the contractor management part, if at the moment your contractor management is, you guys are facilitating that, whereby you're contacting contractors, asking them to send their details in, so then you can go and put it in a folder or put it in a filing cabinet or whatever. This program, once you create your contractors within the system, we can then facilitate a mass email out to your contractors to say, okay, here are the compliances attached to your company. We now need you to enter your employee details, enter your employees' licenses, contact details, making sure employees participate in inductions, which is criteria currently that tradies are using and workers Blacktown are using, whereby they have to participate in the induction, they have to provide all their employee details, because simply they won't be admitted to site if they don't. Because they will be issued a card, and for the investment of a couple of $100, you can put a scanner within your foyer, and then each time a contractor comes to the club, they have to scan on, and if they haven't met all the compliances that we've set up in the system, they don't get admitted. And then when they leave the club, they need to scan off as they're leaving. Now at the end of the month, all right, we're able to do a scan in, scan out report, and that can be isolated to just specific companies. And some of the motives for our clients in the past have been, we just took the system on the basis that we know in most circumstances contractors are billing time when they're attending your clubs, and by billing time and us recording their arrival time and their departure time, and able to then print a report just for that company to reconcile against an invoice, the system pays for itself just by the virtue of that. Now I'll just have a quick look and see if we have any questions at this stage. No, all good. All right, so I'll now move to employees. And demonstrate the employee management part of the program. So if I go in, I've created myself there as an employee of Barrington Workers, albeit unremunerated because it is a mock club at this stage. And these are the compliances that I've attached to myself. So it may be relevant to, or well, it certainly is relevant to obtain someone's driver's license if they happen to be your bus driver, if they happen to have a company vehicle. All right, an appropriate compliance for an employee may be driver's license, first aid certificate for your first aiders, food safety supervisors that you're required to have, certainly in New South Wales under the Food Act, registered club, RCG, RSA, security license if I'm a security guard, and I'll just demonstrate how that works. I'll go in and view that document. I've got the driver's license there. Food safety supervisor, and we can put expiry dates, etc. in place for all those as well. So once again, it's just initially, obviously, in building the system, there's probably, depending on how many employees you've got, depending on how many contractor companies that you've got, there's probably a whole lot of scanning taking place. But believe you me, if you're anything like me in this day and age, the minimising of the amount of paper that you need to keep and maintain, obviously this program facilitates not requiring to maintain all these paper files. But not to mention too is that we all know if you're capturing information of that kind, it doesn't allow for you to access it remotely. It doesn't allow other key people within the business to be able to access it in order to view it. So that's a similar arrangement to a similar environment to the contractors by attaching compliances. If I wanted to add an additional compliance there, all right, and then I drop down that menu, I have all the different types of compliances that may be attached to an employee in a registered club environment. I think the only one that I don't have there is advanced resus and forklift licenses for those of you who are operating forklifts within your cellars. But when we look at this too, an additional compliance I could attach to an employee could be the need for them to go online and participate in an induction program. Or you may just want to put a slideshow up that you're happy for your employees to navigate from home, for them to go on and look at an upgrade to procedures or read a memo that they need to read because you're about to do some building works or whatever it may be. The system's got the capacity to put that in there as a compliance. When we go in, we can add employees, of course. And I'll just show you the criteria quickly on what we can capture as far as employees goes. The obvious detail up the front, up the top. The company would obviously be your own company. Suburb, date of birth, photographs of your employees. And if I go down, I've also got emergency contact details, doctor's information, etc. I also have the capacity for certain employees. If I just quickly navigate back to myself, to attach medical history. So if a person has some type of medical history, I can go into this area and add something that may be prudent to you as the employer, etc. And you can see there it's like a 10-second, 20-second exercise to go in and upload details of that kind. And even creating an employee doesn't take a whole lot of time. Some people may say, okay, we've got an existing HR system. Can this system facilitate the automatic population of employees from your existing systems? Well, yes, it can. Anything that can be exported to Excel has the capacity to be loaded into our system as well, without you having to re-input any data. So that's employees. Now I'm just going to check back over. There's no questions. Has anyone got any questions at this stage? All right, we're all good. So now we will just we'll move on to shift reporting. So once again, in order for us to be relevant for you guys, it was important that we supported our system with some reporting capacity. So if I go back to our site, and the first thing we're going to have a look at here is the shift report. So there's a couple of mock reports there I've created already. The shift report basically has been designed to be anything other than an incident, because if an incident occurs, whether that be a security incident, somebody's injured, a maintenance issue, a hazard report, whatever it may be, we always say that we want to record them in their own specific incident report. But the shift report is just like an overall summary about what occurred at the club on a shift-by-shift basis. And the reason that we've prepared it like this is because in the absence of a shift report, if you're not there 24/7 and that, the chances that you're going to be able to make some really informed decisions reliant on what your particular opinion is on the club is really difficult. But in this system, obviously we're obtaining some daily intelligence that can be searched on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis. If you just wanted to know about promotions, okay, we could just do a report for you on a monthly basis that picks out all the commentary that relates to promotions. Or if for instance you reading your P&Ls at the end of the month and you say, oh look, we struggled in the bar this month, we can go and have a look at all the commentary that the duty managers and supervisors have provided to you guys on a day-to-day basis to say how things have been going in the bar, or what's been occurring in the bar, or what's been occurring in gaming, entertainment, etc. So I'll just show you how quickly we can prepare a report here. So if I go to add, I'll assume I started at 7 a.m. this morning and finished at 3 p.m. Here will be, this will be automatically populated. If you just look in this area here, this will be automatically populated with all the employees that you've created under your employee tab. All right, so all the employees attached to this particular company or this particular club site. So when that's populated, it allows us to select the employees that are on shift. In these circumstances, it's just going to be me because it's the only employee created in the system. I've specifically asked for a checkbox here for hazards identified, whether or not hazard. Now, if a hazard's identified, there is a specific report in our incident module, but the reason that I've put it there is obviously, particularly with the increased obligations under the new Work Health and Safety Act for Queensland and New South Wales. Victorian environment is quite similar to what the federal harmonised legislation is, and in Victoria shortly they say that they will also be coming on board with the federal legislation, is that not only do we want to record when hazards have occurred, but we want to record when hazards haven't occurred. And the reason that we want to do that is because, and obviously the non-selection of this checkbox and that corroborates us saying later on down the track, if someone says, I was injured today because there was a broken chair or whatever in the back bar. Now, from a liability perspective, all right, there would have to be some negligence on the club's behalf to be able to prove a liability matter against you or successfully prosecute you for that. Now, if you've not checked this box, then we can assume that you didn't know about it. But if we had nothing in place to record when we don't find things, obviously there is some exposure there. In these circumstances, I'm going to say no. Bar commentary maybe. Good trade. VB ran out 2 p.m. Out for 15 minutes. While someone put a new keg on. So all right, so I'm not going to go into each one of these boxes, but you can see the point. So what it is that it's not actually, nothing's actually occurred, but it just gives you this summary about what's taken place during the course of the day, which is, coming from a senior management position within clubs, is really, really valuable intelligence when you guys are trying to make a decision on what changes and reforms you're going to make in the bar. It gives your department managers, if you are a big club, it gives your department managers the capacity to be able to just take the key criteria that relates to their department out. Because every single one of these boxes here, is a free text box, but it is also a box which allows for reporting to be done later on down the track. So I'm just going to mock this report up for a moment, excuse me, because I'm going to come back to myself being the employee and I need to fill this in first. You can see there we've got all the relevant departments in clubs. If you had another department or if you had something else that you were anxious to know some information about on a shift-to-shift basis, then we could do that. Staff performance for all you HR guys out there. Training, if you're training a staff member in gaming or whatever it may be, you can put in there, and any other issues. Now, obviously, when we say it's a compliance system where we also have obligations under the Anti-Money Laundering Counter-Terrorism Financing Act, and in fact, prior to the 31st of March each year, we need to prepare a compliance report to say that you had something in place in order to facilitate the recording of suspicious transactions and threshold transactions. So we've included that in the duty manager report. Obviously, we all know this. Unfortunately, AUSTRAC don't know this, but there will never ever be a threshold transaction unless, of course, it is TAB and you're paying $10,000 cash or more, but if it's just a gaming machine related transaction, there won't be. And then suspicious transactions, without going into a full lesson on money laundering compliance and that, we'll assume on this case it is known. And then I save that report. So you can see that report there for a supervisor or a duty manager to complete that at the end of their shift is actually not that onerous. They also have the capacity to do it during the course of the shift. They can save it without closing. So they just save without closing and just add to it during the day. And what that does is it saves as a report. So then we go into save. And if I go into view that report now, that should have, there was something occurred there, but I should have come up there. But you can see here that for all the employees that a duty manager is supervised during the course of their shift, or a supervisor is supervised during the course of their shift, we're able to go in and set performance. And what I've done is I've made it extremely simple because I don't want a full commentary on every staff member on a shift-by-shift basis, because it's not something that your duty managers are going to like doing or your supervisors are going to like doing. But at least here, if we just start to get some intelligence about how people perform on a shift-by-shift basis. Because as you know, particularly with performance management or reward systems or reward programs, the dynamic of a person normally determines whether or not they've been recognised by management or not. But you'll have that quiet person that just goes about their shift on a shift-by-shift basis but really puts in for you. This area here allows you to get some intelligence about that. So, you know, I've set up a criteria of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. Of course, if they were writing 1, you would expect that they would put some commentary in the staff performance area about a particular employee. But because it's me, I'm going to give myself a 5. And save that. Now, if at the end of the month then, or if you wanted to get for a particular employee a series of their scores for their 3-month review, then you could take that. We could create a report just for that employee on all the scores that they've got over the last 3 months, and you can then export that into Excel or whatever program you like to do what you need to do with that. So that is the shift report system. I'm just going to go back to you guys for a sec and see if there are any questions. All right, I'm going to assume everyone's good. So now I'll show you the incident report module. So if I just go in there and select incidents, first thing I will do back over at shift reports. I won't go back to it at the moment. What I will say is at the moment that you complete a shift report, we then can set up email notifications of that shift report. So you can have your email notification going to your senior managers, your CEO. It is instantaneous, so the moment that a shift report has been completed, they have to mark it complete. That is to stop you guys from getting periodic emails as they're saving a report, but getting the final report only, so your inbox is not smashed with all these emails of a shift report. Once the report is completed, it will then send an email notification of that shift report, and that will be instantaneous at the completion. And I'll just show you what that email looks like. It is a notification. You see here, shift report at main club completed. This is one that I completed yesterday. And it comes in a PDF format. So then it allows you to email it to other people who don't have Smartek. You may want to print it and maintain a copy of it. And it will then give you all the commentary of what we've captured during the course of a shift. So that's automatically emailed to you. If it happens to be the weekend, you would be getting your reports on Saturday mornings, on Sundays, and you can basically determine what criteria you want in this shift report that you want to be able to read on a day-by-day basis. So you could say to the managers, in gaming, I want to know what the clearance was. or in entertainment, I want to know the standard of music, promotions, who was in, promotions, what promotions were on, who won the badge draw, who won this, whatever it may be. But that gets automatically emailed to you in a PDF format, and it will also have your logo on it. So therefore, you've got something that can be printed or alternatively emailed to others who don't necessarily have the system. So those email notifications can be set up for any report that's created under this system. So if it happened to be an injury report as a incident, it could automatically go to your workers' comp insurer if you chose to. If you wanted to inspect the report prior to it going to the insurer, then obviously you could do that. All right, so we go back to our incidents. The series of incidents that I've got created in this system, which we will continue to upgrade and continue to add to as clients need further reports, is if I go in there, these are the series of incidents that the system allows for. Customer complaints, gaming complaints, hazard report, injury report, lost found property, maintenance requests, RCG, RSA, security report. Now with those, your email notifications may vary between those reports. Customer complaints may go to the HR manager and the CEO or the operations manager. Gaming complaints to the gaming manager. Hazard reports to your work health and safety representative. And what the hazard report system allows for is that I actually created the hazard report provision to make sure that everything that the Work Health Safety Committee is doing as well when they're doing their inspections of a month, and that gets recorded in the hazard reports. And I've got a user facility, I've created a user level within the system whereby your Work Health and Safety representative can go into the system, and all they can do is view all your work health and safety documentation only and your hazard reports. And essentially, your hazard reports, your injury reports. So essentially what happens is that this hazard report becomes your risk register, which can be tabled on a monthly basis to your board of directors as their requirements as officers. It can be tabled before your Work Health and Safety Committee. And really, I would expect that the entire agenda of a Work Health and Safety Committee meeting would only include basically anything that was recorded in this system, being hazard reports, injury reports, and perhaps, just because if it's been incorrectly put in the wrong place, your maintenance requests. Just a quick look at the hazard reports. I'm not going to put any detail in to that, but I'll just show you what I've allowed for within the system. Where it has choose file here, what that allows for, it allows for me to take a photograph of the hazard. So all of this program has user ability with iPads and tablets as well. So if you can just assume for the minute that your duty managers and your supervisors have an iPad, or you have a generic club iPad, they can create this report. The interface is quite nice on the iPad, and I haven't seen it on a tablet, but I'm going to assume it is the same on a tablet. That when you select that Choose File button, as you know, the predetermined criteria on the iPad, for those of you who use the iPad, it allows you to take a photo or take something from the camera roll. All right. So when you choose that file, you can take a photo of it straight away. Now the advantage out of that is if it's a hazard report and it's something that needs to be looked at immediately, or you need to get it to your maintenance manager, or you need to get it to your CEO in order to make a determination that we need to fix this real fast, is that having that visual within the report for them to be able to inspect and say, yep, right, okay, well, I'm going to need this trade and I'm going to need this trade, with it not necessarily having to attend the club, not necessarily having to attend the location of the hazard, whatever it is, they can just see it from the visual what it is. if it was more appropriate that you wanted to record a short video, then you could record a short video and upload that particular file here as supporting documentation. And anything within that with supporting documentation, I also have, we've also allowed for files to be included in the system for other parts of the report, such as follow-ups to maintenance reports. And at that stage, you can actually upload your contractor's work receipt, the ones that they provide you to say that I've just repaired this, whatever, and you sign it. You could upload that, and that could then write off that particular incident. Within all incident reports, the front page has, I'll see I've got a question there, so just one moment, but on this first page, it is identical for every report, all right? It allows you to record all the people involved. It will default, if you're the person reporting it and you're the person that's logged into the system, it will by way of default automatically select you as the person preparing the report. However, depending on what type of report that you are preparing, you can go over here and we allow for all these particular persons here, whether it be a facilitator, informant, participant, person affected, person of interest, staff member, witness or other. Once again, you come down to here, so you can imagine how valuable this is. If it's a security report, the person's a member, and you're able to go in there and choose a file and choose a picture of that member, and then print that report out at a later stage, and then put it on the wall of the office or whatever. Keep a lookout for this person. He's the person that failed to leave on the last occasion, whatever it may be. So we can do that. I'm just going to look at these questions for a moment, just a sec. Nope, the question's not there. Oh, sorry. It's all right. There is no question. Okay, so yeah, so it allows for you to select all these different types of person. Anything with an asterisk is obviously mandatory. We want first name and last name as a mandatory there. So if I uncheck that, hopefully I can save that and take it over, and you will see the unique criteria that exists for all incident reports is always on this second page. As it navigates over to the next page, you can see there with all incident reports we ask if CCTV footage is available for the incident, and if so, what camera numbers. Now what that allows for, and then has the CCTV footage been recorded, because we can all recall certain occasions whereby we've said there's CCTV footage, we've assumed everyone else has gone and downloaded it. Then what this allows for whether or not that footage has been captured or not. We have the nature of the hazard, the type, and you've got the capacity to pick what sort of hazard that it is. Now the unique part of it is that we've actually gone and mapped our risk our risk management with the Australian standard to ensure that we capture a likelihood of someone getting injured as a result of it and the consequences if someone gets injured from it. And we've mapped both the likelihood and consequence tables from the Australian Standard for Risk Management, and what it does is that it automatically calculates what level of risk that is. So say for instance you were looking at your risk register, which would be all your hazard reports, then you will see the ones that are of high risk, so you're able to determine what you need to do with that at your Work Health and Safety Committee meeting from a management perspective, from a board perspective, whatever it may be. But also what you're also representing here is that you've got a facility in place to measure risk and respond to risk, which is a key criteria of compliance under all work health and safety legislation, no matter what jurisdiction you are in. Consultation, another key compliance criteria of work health and safety. is consultation with workers required? I would say anything that you have the capacity to get rid of straight away, as far as risk goes, wouldn't be something that would require consultation, but anything you don't have the capacity to get rid of straight away would require it. What the automatic notification, what that could do to an automatic notification then is that gets sent to the work health and safety representative or the work health and safety chairperson, and you could then commence some consultation with your workforce as far as that goes. So I'm just going to go out of that now because I've already created. And when you complete your incident reports, once again, it comes in PDF report. You can see here I've done a hazard report, prepared a mock hazard report yesterday. And if you look here, it didn't allow for me to determine the level of risk. I only was able to record the likelihood and consequence, but automatically here, it's been recorded as a high risk. Now I will go in and show you that report shortly, in a moment, within the system, and show you the photos that I was able to upload to the system for this particular hazard report. You will always, with all your reports, you will always have the last report will be at the top of the page. So if you're not doing any specific search and you go into incidents and you want to look at the incidents in the last 24 hours because you're not on the email notification, or you wanted to look at the photos attached to that, then I would just go onto here and go onto view the report. Supporting documentation. He's working slowly at my end as well. And I've just used that as a mock example, being the drainage grate. I'll just quickly click back to the system. Hopefully that picture did take a little while to download from my end as well. And it says the audience view was a bit ordinary, so I apologise for that if that was the case. But if I now go back to this report, you can see that there is a tab over here, and our clients that we have now are starting to use this to follow up as a good way of writing incident jobs off. All right. So for instance, if it was this particular report, I could go on and put a follow-up. At this stage, there is none. I would go in and add a follow-up, and I could say repaired this morning by contractors. What I could also do, once again, to have some evidence of it being repaired, I could also choose a file once again and upload a photo of that particular drainage grate repaired. All right, so we're coming up towards the end of the webinar now. So I'm just going to invite you, if you have any questions about the system. In fact, what I first might do, and then I've just got a little poll that I'm just curious to use when I can identify it. Just a moment. If you guys can see that there now, the poll. Just put your hands up if you can see that poll there now. Maybe better, put your hand up if you cannot see the poll there. Thanks, Mark. Okay, I've now got it. There you go. So the poll's open. You guys should be able to view that now. I just want to grab some information off you about how you're actually recording compliances and incidents at the moment. Has everyone selected one of those? So it appears 43% are saying they're currently using Microsoft Office or similar, which is better than not. And no one said that they don't record details of shifts and incidents, which is fantastic, given the compliance environment that registered clubs find themselves. But 43% reports through Microsoft Office. Obviously, you know, facilitating programs like Microsoft Office as well, where documents are saved, where they're maintained, all those kinds of things, and that need to be needs to be managed by someone or looked after by someone. 29% are doing handwritten reports, and 29% are using electronic reporting software, which is fantastic. All right. So at this point, does anyone put their hand up and ask a question? I will unmute you, and by all means you can ask a question about the software. All right. Sorry, Kyle, you had your hand up then, didn't you? Yeah. All right, Kyle, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, I had it up from before. I just took it down. But no, you've answered everything I was going to ask you.
Yep.
Customising the, customising the shift reports to get the information that you want rather than essays on irrelevant stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right, that's good. Just a sec. I'm going to go to Michelle in just a minute. Go ahead, Michelle. How you going?
I'm good, thank you.
That's good. Thanks for attending.
No, it's been really good. I've got a really good understanding of the role, so thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been great.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, and I'm glad it's of some value. And by all means, in that, you know, contact Aaron if you want any more access or more information about it, and that, and you can always contact myself as well.
All right then. Thank you very much.
No worries. All right, so I will assume now there's no more questions about the session. So I just want to let you all know and thank you for your attendance. I'm going to be doing further webinars in the future. The next one we're looking at the moment is one on anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, just given its uniqueness as far as compliance goes. So by all means, keep a lookout for that. We will communicate it through the same way. Here is our Barringtons contacts and their respective areas. So if you're interested in the program, you know, we'd love to have a chat with you. We can show you some case studies about how it's working at some of our other clients as well. We're running specific work health and safety management programs whereby we're looking after compliance as well as using Smartek as the platform for the compliance program. No doubt these guys may have had a chat with you about it before, but definitely give that some consideration as well about somewhere we might be able to support you specifically with your work health and safety compliance. But if you're keen on the system alone as a means for recording compliance and recording incidents and shift reports and that type of thing, then by all means contact one of our guys, and their contact details are there. And I'd just like to thank you, and by all means we'll continue to communicate through our normal means via email, via LinkedIn, via Twitter, and via Facebook. And I'm on all of those mediums, so if you search for me, you will find that. If there's anything we can help you out with from a compliance perspective, by all means, let us know. But right now, I'll stop the webinar and wish you all a great day.